What happens after we die? Is it eternal bliss, endless torment, or simply, well, nothingness?
Yeah.
It's a question that's, fascinated humanity forever. It's sparking deep curiosity and, let's be honest, often wildly contradictory beliefs. Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, helping you become truly well-informed on something as profound as the afterlife.
We're looking at Allan Kardec's foundational work, Heaven and Hell, or Divine Justice According to Spiritism. And this isn't just another theological text. It's quite unique. It's an observation-based perspective on the soul's journey, drawn from accounts spirits themselves apparently provided.
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack Kardec's arguments against some common beliefs and reveal what Spiritism suggests instead. We're going on a very personal and, frankly, often surprising journey into what the book calls the true situation of the soul during and after death.
Right. And this deep dive really challenges you to think critically about centuries of belief, using both logic and what Kardec presents as these observed facts from the spirit world.
It asks us to consider not just what is believed, but really why it matters to you.
Absolutely. And Kardec's work, it directly confronts some of the most deeply ingrained ideas about what happens after death, starting with maybe the most unsettling one, nothingness.
The thought of just ceasing to exist.
Yeah.
Chapter 1 in Kardec's book goes deep on this. It suggests that if you truly believe in nothingness, well, your thoughts naturally focus almost entirely on the present life.
Yeah, there's no real reason to worry about a future you don't think exists, right?
Right.
And this exclusive focus on the present, Kardec argues, becomes the most powerful stimulus for selfishness. The conclusion then seems pretty clear for you. Let us enjoy ourselves while we are here. Let us enjoy ourselves as much as possible because we know that after death it will all end.
And the social consequences if everyone thought that. Kardec is pretty stark. He suggests that if absolute disbelief took over, society would devolve into chaos. It's a compelling, maybe unsettling picture of a world without any kind of spiritual accountability.
Definitely. So, moving from that void of nothingness, Kardec also tackles traditional ideas of heaven. Christianity, for instance, often talks about 3 heavens, right? With the third being where the Most High dwells, where the elect are.
The place St. Paul supposedly visited.
That's the one. But then, as you said, science comes along.
Yeah, science enters the chat, doesn't it? Kardec points out how science has taken its searchlight into the depths of space and has shown how implausible all those theories are. Suddenly, Earth isn't the center anymore.
Exactly. We know there are innumerable suns, an infinite number of worlds, which, Kardec argues, naturally leads you to ask, why would God make the Earth the only seat of life and relegate his most favored creatures to it? It just doesn't quite add up anymore.
It's a really critical point. Kardec says this new scientific knowledge basically displaced heaven. It kind of left religions mute on where it actually is.
Right. Science didn't just challenge the idea, it sort of unmoored it from physical reality. It forced a total rethink of theological geography, if you like.
Okay, so if nothingness breeds selfishness and traditional heaven got displaced by science, what about the really scary one? Eternal punishment. Hell. What does Kardec say about that?
Yes. This is where Kardec really tries to dismantle those deep-seated fears, and he suggests the origins of Christian hell might actually surprise you. He notes that this intuition of future punishment has always been around, pretty much, but early ideas were often more physical than spiritual.
Okay.
But the fascinating claim is that Christian hell is in many ways an imitation of pagan hell.
Wow. Okay, that's a big statement. Does he give examples?
Oh, yeah. Very vivid ones, almost chilling. Think about Fenelon's description of pagan hell in Telemachus. You've got this proud King Nabofarzum in Tartarus, the deepest bit of the underworld, right? He's pulling his hair out, forced to face his shame amidst black, heavy smoke and a river of fire. And punishment wasn't just for, fraud or betrayal. It was also for impious hypocrites who twisted religion.
And didn't he mention kings being punished for inaction too?
Exactly. Kings punished not for the evils they had committed, but for having neglected doing the good they could and should have done. That's significant.
And then there's that vision from Saint Teresa of Avila.
Yes, truly terrifying. Described as a horrifying stone niche. She felt like she was suffocating and strangling while also being flaying and chopping her into pieces. She felt herself burning, every kind of anguish imaginable. These descriptions really capture that raw fear tied to traditional beliefs.
Gosh, it makes you wonder how it could possibly get worse. But Kardec argues that Christian hell actually exceeds pagan hell in its cruelty. How so?
Well, it's because of the idea of resurrecting the physical body just to suffer eternal torture. Kardec finds this idea particularly problematic. He suggests it implies God would actively maintain and perpetuate this living rod of flesh against the natural order, keeping fires burning just to contribute their eternal torture to the edification of the elect.
That sounds almost sadistic, like weaponizing flesh against itself.
That's pretty much Kardec's critique. And it's a stark contrast to pagan hell, where suffering was more about remorse, and souls were seen as shades, these fluidic, non-physical things.
Right, and there were judges who could adjust things.
Exactly. Whereas the Christian hell Kardec describes seems to remove that nuance. It's just relentless physical agony where the condemned all are immersed in the same tortures and any fairness is completely banished.
Which brings up that huge theological inconsistency, doesn't it? Kardec argues, the eternal abandonment of a disgraced and suffering being seems incompatible with the goodness of the Creator.
That's really fundamental to his whole argument. He believes a truly infinitely good God just cannot sentence any being to endless, hopeless torment, especially a finite being.
So that inconsistency is why the belief is losing ground.
That's what Kardec suggests, yeah. He thinks it perhaps served as a healthy restraint for, let's say, little advanced souls. A bit like threatening kids with monsters, you know.
But fundamentally flawed.
Fundamentally, God, being infinitely good, cannot be the least bit evil. And since we humans are finite, we can't commit infinite evil. So, infinite punishment, it doesn't logically follow for Kardec.
He even mentions the physical impossibility of eternal punishment if the soul progresses after death. That's the key question, isn't it? How can suffering be eternal and unchanging if the soul itself can change and evolve?
Precisely. And that question leads us right into Spiritism's alternative, this path of progress and reparation. The core idea is that logic irresistibly impels us to accept the individuality of the soul.
Meaning its fate depends on its own qualities and free will.
Exactly. Its fate must depend on its own personal qualities and free will.
And this is where the idea comes in that souls are created. Simple, ignorant.
Simple and ignorant, yes. That is, without knowledge or awareness of good and evil, but crucially, capable of acquiring all they lack through labor. The goal for everyone is perfection.
Achieved through effort, across the same degrees, for all souls, no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. And central to making this progress possible is the plurality of existences, reincarnation.
Right.
Kardec presents it as the only and rational means to explain how we actually achieve moral and intellectual progress. Because, let's face it, one single corporeal existence is manifestly insufficient for a spirit to learn everything, acquire all good, get rid of all evil.
It just doesn't seem like enough time.
Not nearly enough. So reincarnation, for Kardec, lines up perfectly with divine justice and goodness, and even with the very evolutionary and progressive laws of nature.
So death, in this view, isn't an end. It's not even a static judgment point. It's a transformation.
A transformation, exactly. Kardec's Spiritist doctrine completely transforms the way one envisages the future. Death stops being a maybe, a hypothesis, and becomes a reality based on these observations from spirits.
And the soul isn't just some abstract idea.
Not at all. It has an ethereal body, making it a defined being. So when you remember loved ones, it's based on something real. They are concrete forms, and remarkably, Kardec says they are all around us.
Wow. But what's the transition like? He mentions confusion.
Yes, often a state of confusion right after death, like a numbness that temporarily paralyzes its faculties. And this can apparently last from just a few hours to many years.
Depends on the person or the spirit.
Seems so. Peaceful awakenings for spirits who were sort of prepared, who understood. But for others, it can be filled with terror and anxiety.
But for authentic spiritists, those who believe because they understand.
For them, Kardec says, the confusion is typically of short duration. Their fluidic connections, those energetic ties to earthly life, are already weakened, so it's more like a peaceful sleep, and they awaken to this indescribable feeling of hope and blessedness.
The one spirit, Mr. Vignal, described it as quite forceful.
He did. He called death a violent rupture, where the spirit has to make a superhuman effort to escape its envelope. So it's not always gentle, even if the outcome is positive.
But the overall message seems comforting. The dead are happier than the living. And communication means that the tie that bound us together on earth was not broken.
A very comforting thought. Kardec uses the example of Mrs. Foulon, who, after death, could apparently visit her scattered family instantly at the speed of light.
Incredible. So what is life like then in the spirit world? Is it just sitting around being blissful?
Well, that's another area Kardec challenges. He contrasts the traditional idea of contemplative beatitude, just eternal static worship, with the Spiritist view of happiness as activity.
He found the traditional idea a bit boring.
He called it potentially nothing but a fastidious monotony, expressing more boredom than true blissfulness. A bit harsh, maybe, but you see his point.
So activity instead, like what?
Well, take Dr. Antoine Demure, a spirit Kardec communicated with. After death, Demure apparently rushed to care for the sick as a spirit. He found satisfaction in doing things, in occupations according to their likes and aptitudes. Not forced, but chosen activity.
And Countess Paula's description. That sounded amazing.
Oh, it's incredibly vivid. Assemblies of spirits shine with a light that your eyes could not bear. There are aerial dwellings, voyages through this immenseness that may be traveled faster than lightning. She talks about soft harmony and this ineffable sensation of bliss without any restlessness, worry, or suffering.
But she also said it wasn't just handed to her.
Right. She emphasized her happiness didn't come without struggle. She'd gone through trials, labor, and poverty, even the trial of wealth. It was earned through progress.
But it's not all bliss and light speed travel. Kardec also talks about suffering in the spirit life.
Yes, absolutely. It's not ignored. Suffering is seen as inherent to its degree of purity or impurity. It's a consequence of imperfections that it could not correct during its corporeal life.
And this leads to the idea of reparation.
Exactly. The idea that a physical life, an incarnation, is often given as a means of reparation for past wrongs.
So you might have to live with people you harmed, or experience the opposite of your past life, like poverty after misusing wealth.
Precisely. Or maybe experience humiliation if you were excessively proud. Expiation on earth works together with any punishment or suffering in the spirit world. It allows for progress through effective labor. It's about learning and balancing the scales, essentially.
Kardec gives some really moving examples of suffering spirits, doesn't he?
He does. Very poignant ones, like Mrs. Helene Michel, who died suddenly. She felt such confusion. I'm two persons. My body no longer belongs to me, yet I can feel it cold and frozen. Just utterly disoriented.
And the man attached to his money, François Riquier.
Yes, 5 years after death, he still didn't think he was dead. Gave his old address, suffering worse tortures than the cruelest disease because it is my soul who endures them. All because he couldn't let go of his earthly riches. Needed prayer, Kardec says, just to start forgetting them.
Wow. And Claire, the selfish one.
Her punishment was isolation, abandonment, and helplessness because she lived only for herself. Kardec notes this is more poignant than physical suffering because it is humiliating. For a spirit, darkness isn't just lack of light, it's ignorance, emptiness, the horror of the unknown.
And the suicides. There were a couple mentioned.
Yes. The father who did it for his son, he suffered doubly in my soul and in my body, like an amputee feels pain in a limb that is no longer there. But his punishment was said to be lessened because of the praiseworthy motive.
Which is interesting. Motive matters.
Very much so. Then there was Felicien, the atheist suicide. He despaired of life, and his suffering was being obliged to believe in everything I used to deny. His soul is like a furnace. His earthly trial involved facing the temptation to commit suicide, and Kardec says those circumstances will be renewed once again until he finally triumphs over them.
It sounds incredibly tough, but there's always a path forward.
That's the key message. God does not give anyone more than they can bear. Suffering isn't just punishment, it's a choice. An opportunity to overcome their evil instincts. It's aimed at growth.
There's that incredible example. Punished by the Light, by Lemonac.
Ah, yes. A really striking image. This hardened spirit. He's fully aware he's dead, has all his faculties, but for him, the light is his torture.
And how?
He says, the light dazzles me and pierces like a sharp arrow into the essence of my being. It makes his most secret thoughts visible to everyone. He craves darkness and night, but they no longer exist for him.
So his own inner state becomes his torment.
Exactly. Kardec says this is the guilty spirit who becomes its own most merciless punishment. Yeah, becomes its own most merciless punishment. That's incredibly powerful. Puts the responsibility squarely on the spirit itself.
But then there's the contrast with Jacques Latour, the repentant criminal.
A stark contrast. He feels immediate, overwhelming remorse after his execution. Cries out, the guillotine! What was the guillotine when compared with what I'm experiencing now? Nothing. It was just a moment.
What's he experiencing?
This fire that is devouring me is worse. It is a continual death. It is a suffering without rest or repose, without end. And my victims are all there around me, showing me their wounds, persecuting me with their stares.
That sounds horrific, but Kardec sees it differently.
He sees that intense remorse as a turning point, a transition from evil to good. Latour accepts his punishment and even wants to help poor wretches who have succumbed. It's the beginning of his reparation.
And these ideas connect back to our lives now, right? Earthly expiations.
Yes, the idea that misfortunes you face in this life might often be expiations of previous wrongs. Kardec shares some really compelling stories for this.
Like the beggar who was a prince.
Simon Slisgall, yes.
Yeah.
A poor beggar who was apparently a tyrannical prince in a past life. He chose that humble, suffering life to atone. Same with Max, the count beggar, formerly a proud, wealthy count. Both chose hardship to make amends for abusing power or wealth.
It really reinforces that idea of multiple chances, multiple incarnations.
It does. That God grants to the spirit as many incarnations as are necessary for it to reach its objective, perfection. Suffering now might be part of that longer journey of balancing things out and growing.
There were other examples too. A sick mother, a disabled child.
Right. The ambitious scholar, a chronically ill mother who, Kardec says, was a male physician in a past life. Greedy for glory, performed harmful experiments. Her illness now is seen as reparation.
And Charles de Sanchez.
A mentally impaired child. His suffering is described as punishment for a previous life as a libertine. His spirit feels confined like a bird tied down by one leg, but apparently finds more freedom when his body sleeps. It's a really complex, layered view of justice, always pointing towards eventual progress.
Okay, moving from individual souls, Kardec also tackles angels and demons, right?
Right.
Reframes them completely.
Dramatically. He goes right after the traditional church doctrine, the idea that God made some angels pure and perfect from the start, while others, the demons, fell and are just lost forever, condemned irrevocably.
Kardec had a problem with that.
A big one. He argues that view implies God actually created them, knowing they would be lost forever, for the purpose of their irrevocable loss. And that, Kardec says, is impossible for us to associate with God's supreme goodness. He asks, if God is all good, could God create evil?
And his answer is...
Make clear, God did not create evil.
So what are angels then, in his view?
He says, there is no doubt that there are beings endowed with all the qualities attributed to angels. But they aren't a separate creation. They are simply souls or spirits like us who have reached perfection through their own labor and progress over many lives.
So anyone can become an angel, eventually.
That's the idea. It creates this unity of creation. One path for all, under a just God who has no favorites. Everyone starts simple and ignorant and works their way up.
What about demons then?
Well, Kardec has this almost humorous but very pointed critique. He basically says, look, if these supposed demons are always intervening in ways that actually make disbelievers return to God every day and push vicious individuals struggle ardently to better themselves,
then they're not very good at being evil.
Exactly. Chuckles slightly. Then the devil is either completely inept or he is not as cunning and evil as imagined. It's a logical jab at the traditional concept. If the devil's work constantly leads people back to good, maybe the system isn't what we thought.
That's clever. It really highlights the inconsistency.
It does, especially if you believe souls can progress.
Okay, one last major point. Evoking the dead. Spiritism gets a lot of flack for this. How does Kardec address the Church's prohibition, often citing Moses?
He confronts it directly. He argues you need to look at Moses' context. That prohibition was aimed at things like fortune-telling, magic and sorcery, even human sacrifice. Practices needed to manage an unruly people back then.
So not a blanket ban for all time.
Kardec argues Moses' laws were specific to those circumstances, not meant as a universal, eternal ban on all forms of spirit communication.
And Spiritism's purpose is different.
Completely different, he insists. It's exclusively moral, consoling, and religious. And importantly, spirits can't be forced or coerced. A high-order spirit, Kardec assures, always answers whenever it is called for a useful reason, not just for kicks or frivolous stuff.
So it's about instruction, consolation, maintaining bonds.
Yes, evoked for instruction, for moral guidance, and crucially to continue relationships with loved ones, reinforcing that those bonds aren't broken by death.
Kardec even says God sent the spirits.
He does. He emphasizes the idea that God sent the spirits to confirm the holy word of Jesus, to complete it, to place it within reach of all, and to spread it throughout the earth. They speak to the heart and reason.
And he ends that section with a really powerful statement, doesn't he, about religion?
A very strong statement. A religion that makes such a doctrine, meaning hell, eternal punishment, and unjust God one of its cornerstones, is a religion that is committing suicide. Wow. It's a direct challenge to systems built on fear, suggesting they ultimately undermine themselves.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive into Kardec's heaven and hell, it really offers a profoundly different way of looking at the afterlife, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The core Spiritist ideas really stand out. The soul's individuality, this long journey of progress through many lives, and seeing suffering not just as punishment, but as a tool for learning and reparation.
And it all points to a God of supreme justice and goodness. Kardec believed this doctrine offered unshakable faith and could turn that fear of death into a kind of certainty.
It definitely challenges you, the listener, to look beyond those simple black and white ideas of heaven and hell, to maybe consider a universe based on constant growth and interconnectedness.
It really does broaden the perspective, which leads to that final thought. If every experience, every trial, every joy in your life, both here and potentially in the spirit world, is actually a step on your unique path towards self-perfection, towards reunion with the divine, well, what does that mean for how you choose to live your life today?
It's a powerful question. It prompts you to reflect on personal responsibility, maybe find a different purpose and challenges, and consider the truly expansive possibilities of life beyond just the physical body.
A journey of continuous learning, it seems, that doesn't end when we think it does.